Hey guys, this is going to be my review of episode 6 of Devs, the Alex Garland miniseries for Sci-Fi and Hulu. So just a couple more episodes left after this, so we're reaching the end game. And I mean, not that much happens in this episode, to be honest, certainly not plot-wise. The big sort of set piece of the episode, if you want to call it that, which takes up most of the episode, is that Lily and Jamie actually decide to go and visit Forrest at home. They want to get to the bottom of what's going on. They want to face up to things head on because they've kind of decided then there's like drawbacks to like just going to the law. And I think Lily at this point is just like curious. I think she wants to know what exactly is going on at Devs. I think that natural curiosity and like just wanting to know what happened to Sergey. So obviously Jamie and Lily are on the same page, so they go to Forrest's house. They're invited there. So that's the bulk of the episode, really, and then there's just like little small bits happening to the side and other little character moments. And I mean, it's revealed actually in the first, I think it's in the first scene, that actually Forrest and Katie are actually seeing each other. They're a couple, which is something that never dawned on me. I guess it's not surprising, but I sort of, you could see that they were close, but I got the impression it was just like a professional relationship. But no, they're actually seeing each other because we see them in this episode waking up in bed, and Katie's there later on, and she's actually the one giving the information to Lily. Forrest leaves her alone with Lily to basically fill her up on, get her up to speed what's happening with Devs and the whole thing that happened with Sergey, while you get this other quirky thing happening with Forrest and Jamie outside. So that's revealed at the start. Then they're actually seeing each other, and we get more of these like flashback type scenes where we see Forrest kind of in this blissful like pre-Dev's existence with his wife and his daughter. Again, some choice music on the soundtrack, which is really effective. Some folk music, which is nicely handled. But one or two other bits is Lyndon is still around despite being like fired in the last episode. He still doesn't want to let it go. He's very like anxious and worried. He actually goes to Stuart, and he's figured out what Forrest is up to in terms of like trying to resurrect his daughter, his family. Then that's his whole motivation for deaths. And it actually links up quite nicely with what Lily says like at the end of the episode, because Lyndon goes to Stuart, and bearing in mind Lyndon has not only been fired, but he's been given like this huge payoff from Forrest, and the pay, as part of the payoff, it's like keep your mouth shut money sort of thing. But he's basically set up for life, so he clearly feels very strongly about going back, and so he's trying to talk Stuart into like talking to Forrest or Katie or someone to get him back in. And his whole thing is that he's worried because he's saying, Forrest is a madman, basically. He's trying to resurrect his daughter. Do you really want the future of Devs in the hands of someone that crazy? And Stuart, I think, is probably taking on board what Lyndon's saying, and he probably doesn't disagree. I think it's just then he knows the dangers, and he knows probably then it can't be stopped at this point. I mean, obviously, when you get to the end game, it may well be stopped, but certainly at this stage, like things have already happened, the wheels are in motion, and I think he errs on the side of caution, that being Stuart, because he realised there could be consequences to get involved and to try and stop the project. I mean, look what happened to Sergei. So he warns Lyndon just to get out, just to not push this. He warns him that basically they will kill you if you try and stop them, if you try and get back in. So, and I do like actually the stuff we get with Lyndon and Stuart. There's probably not a whole lot, but I do actually like their little relationship. I thought, the banter back and forth between them when we first saw them together was quite like amusing, and you can imagine, like an older sort of guy and the younger sort of guy who are in like this sort of job, and you can sort of imagine them having the sort of banter than they had, and obviously it was related to like stuff like music and history and old and new, so it made sense. But and then we see they have this closer sort of bond because Stuart is generally concerned for Lyndon. He's saying, no, the best thing for you to do is to get out, live your life, enjoy the money, basically, which sounds like sensible advice to me, but you kind of get the impression Lyndon, sorry, isn't gonna leave this alone. So I enjoyed that stuff. That was quite interesting, and it does link up to something Lily is telling Jamie at the end of the episode, because when she's obviously heard all this from Katie and they go back, she basically comes to the conclusion, yeah, Forrest is a psychopath. And she uses this whole, and I think this isn't the first time they've brought this up in the series, but this whole sort of idea of like these entrepreneur like tech giants just being like egomaniacs, just not thinking of the consequences of their experiments. They just want to do it because they can and because they've got the power, and the ego and the money just like runs wild with them. And it actually got me to thinking of like just that line in Jurassic Park, really, the original one, where it's, I forget the line, it's so iconic, but when they say to the owner of the park, it's, you spent so much time thinking if you could do it rather than like asking if you should, sort of thing. So I think this is getting at a similar sort of idea where it's just saying, yeah, just because you can do something and just because it's like this curious experiment, that doesn't mean then it's for the benefit of the world, the rest of the world, to actually do it. You have to think about your consequences. So yeah, that sort of stuff I really like. And I think this episode also positions Kenton as like the villain of the piece more now. I think Forrest has always been a murkier sort of character where his actions are very extreme and a very corrupt figure, but I think there have been like, because he has this belief, then he can justify certain actions, and because at certain times he can seem very charming, and there is a sympathetic air to him just because what happened to his family. So I think Forrest has been more, and Katie even more. Katie, who we've only really gotten to know a bit more in the last couple of episodes, I think she's certainly more on the sympathetic side. I think she's a bit more grounded anyway than Forrest is. But Kenton, we've just come to see, is like this outright like machine. He's just there to get the job done, and there's almost like no humanity to Kenton. And I said it, I think, in the last review. I really like Zach Garren, the actor playing him, and I think he does a really good job. But yeah, he's got a line in this which is a bit on the nose, because when Lily and Jamie leave the house, he's watching from his car, so he's obviously spying on them. And Forrest has no knowledge on this. I think Forrest has like warned Kenton just to keep his distance and not to do anything else. He certainly warned him not to like harm Lily or Jamie. Because in this, when it's mentioned by Jamie, because Jamie's still got like the bruises from Kenton like attacking him and torturing him, and Forrest seems, it could just be an act, but he seems very sympathetic and kind of taken aback. Again, it could just be an act, but because of Forrest's, I guess, different approach, he's not so like extreme in some ways as Kenton. Then you get the impression Forrest is telling the truth, that then he actually didn't know about Kenton's actions. But that's actually quite an intriguing thing, the fact that they don't out and out tell you, the fact that they let you think about it. Forrest could have known about it, and he could be just manipulating Jamie in like pleading sort of ignorance. Or it could be the opposite. It could be then he had no idea at all. And that Kenton is going off script, basically. He's going into business for himself, which would sort of follow with what we see. But there's this line from Kenton because he watches Lily and Jamie leave, and he just basically says, so you're all in this fucking, you're all fucking buddies now. Should have fucking guessed or something, which is quite an amusing line. I like the way he delivers it, but it's a little bit on the nose. It's one of those lines which is basically saying, yeah, this is now the villain of the piece. But the stuff with Lily and Katie, it's fine, and it's good to see more Alison Pill and her kind of like delivery and acting chops. But obviously, it's like recycled information. We know pretty much everything that Katie is telling Lily. So I think the story does drag a bit when it gets to those scenes. The more interesting stuff is actually Forrest and Jamie outside. It's this bizarre sort of like them coming together, because obviously they're on opposing sides of this, and Jamie obviously believes that Forrest had Kenton attack him, so he's very untrustworthy. And obviously he knows generally what's going on and what happened to Sergei. So yeah, but it's just this bizarre sort of meeting of these two guys. They're on the outside as like the women are talking, and they slowly bond, because at first Jamie just, I mean, I don't know if, well, yeah, Jamie is just like sitting in silence, and he has no intention of talking to Forrest, and Forrest slowly like gets him involved in a conversation, and it's quite well done because it cuts back and forth between Lily and Katie in the house, and then Forrest and Jamie discussing things on the outside. And again, you get Forrest trying to justify the actions a little bit by kind of saying, I'm very sorry that this has to happen, but it has to happen, basically. There's no other way. He very much is talking as like a determinist, and obviously he's kind of a corrupt guy trying to justify his actions, trying to like pass them off as, sometimes you just have to do these things get serious. But he's also talking very much in the theory of, this was meant to happen. That's the way it plays out, and you can't really get in the way of that, which obviously Jamie is buying none of. And he calls Forrest out on it, but they slowly kind of bond over things. They actually talk about their lives and stuff, and it's just this bizarre little conversation, which actually is more engaging because the stuff that's happening inside between Katie and Lily is mostly stuff we already know, so like second-hand information. But yeah, the Forrest Jamie stuff is actually really good, and it leads to them playing frisbee of all things outside. So this bizarre sort of image of these two adversaries like playing frisbee. So when Lily comes out after talking to Katie, yeah, sees them throwing frisbee, it's like, okay, I'm ready to go now, Jamie, and they go, and that's when we see Kenton watching them So the only other thing with Lily and Katie is Katie explains to Lily then, because she explains the whole thing to do with determinism and you're on a set path and there's no going back. And obviously she explains that we've seen your fate at Devs, and your fate is that you're gonna die in, I think it's the next night. I can't remember whether it was, I think at that stage it's the next night. So she says tomorrow night, she says, we've seen your future and tomorrow night you will go to Devs and you will die. And there's no getting around that. Nothing can change that. And obviously Lily is very resistant. That she like says bullshit, and people can act and change things. And if you tell me I'm going to Devs tomorrow, I just won't go, basically, is what she's saying. And Katie's trying to convince her, sorry, that's your path, you're on the path, and that's what's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And I think Lily is, again, as I said, very She gets a bit annoying, I think, in these scenes, and it might just be, again, because the actress isn't very good. So the delivery of the lines, and I think it just makes her seem kind of like just a bit like sort of childish. But I think with her like a more like subtle, powerful actress, I think that sort of rage will get across a bit more effective, rather than just coming off as kind of just a bit like corny and silly. But anyway, that's the big thing for Lily to go away and ponder. So her and Jamie go home and they actually end up sleeping together. And it's this really bizarre thing, because Lily comes to like the conclusion that she didn't know Sergei at all, then because she now knows he's a Russian spy and stuff like that. And she's just come to this conclusion that, yeah, maybe my ex-boyfriend wasn't that great after all. And she just sleeps with Jamie. Do you want to spend the night with me, is the way she puts it, I think. And Jamie is unsure. I mean, he's been uncomfortable during this whole thing, because it is weird for him as like her ex-boyfriend to be drawn into like this investigation concerning like her last boyfriend, the one who recently died. But at the same time, he's obviously sympathetic. He wants to do the right thing. But yeah, it does make Lily seem kind of unsympathetic, the way she sort of manipulates things at the end. Maybe that's part of the point, but yeah, it does make it quite hard to engage with her, despite the fact that the actress isn't very good. But yeah, it's a strange little scene, but they end up spending the night together, and that's pretty much it for the episode. So that's episode 6 of Dev. So I have 2 more to review, and obviously we're getting towards the end game now, the big sort of finale, and we're going to find out just what Lily's fate it is in the next couple. So it's going to be interesting anyway. So thanks for listening. I will have more television reviews coming up on the channel soon. Another sci-fi related show I recently started was Upload, the new Amazon Prime original from Greg Daniels. I've done the first episode of that. I was pretty positive, so you can find the review of that on the channel. And I'll be back with a second episode review for that pretty soon. And yeah, look out for other new TV shows and other new movies and classic horror movies that I tend to do from time to time. I just want to send this video to Anya, who's like a new subscriber. So thank you, Anya. I hope you enjoy the content. But yeah, like and subscribe, and get me up on Twitter if you want any questions or any comments. You can ding the bell on YouTube as well. But I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.